Unsuccessful game developers think about how cool their life is going to be just working on their game every day. So they watch tons of content and make a massive plan for this game that they're so excited about. It's going to be the next big thing. They're so excited, so they finally sit down to make their game. They make their character model, but then something happens. The walking feels funny. So they spend a few hours looking for the solution and there's nothing on the internet. So they decide to leave it for the next day. But then, the next day, something happens. They feel too tired to tackle the problem. They don't have the mental energy. So they forget about the game altogether and go back to their job. But then, there's the 1%. They realize they want to make their game. So they make a quick plan and jump straight in. Their character starts walking funny at first too. And they also struggle to find a solution. But because they realize how painful their current situation is, that they aren't really living the life they want to live, and they visualize what their life could be like if they just got through this. They have a deeper purpose beyond just making their game, so they carry on working really hard, and eventually launch their game to massive success. I remember that 2 years ago, I had just finished university, and I'd started making a little bit of money online, just enough to live with my mum and pay her rent. I was really happy about my situation and really grateful for it, but at the same time, I knew that I still wanted more out of life. So I decided one day, after getting inspired by someone, to write down everything about my dream life. So I carried on working on my online business and my YouTube and my games as normal, but I just had this in the back of my mind. Every morning I would visualize how I wanted to wake up, what I wanted to see, how much money I had on my bank account. I remember I visualized exactly me checking my phone and an exact number there, right? Just down to that exact detail. I visualized what my indie games would be like, how good I would be at game development, and how much my community would grow. So across the next 2 years, I carried on working hard, but throughout the days, day by day, you're just working. Every day is sort of the same. One day you're more motivated, one day you're less motivated, but everything just stays the same, month to month. But then you wake up one day and you realize, I've made it. I've achieved everything that I had on my list. Just look at this fucking beautiful view. I visualized that view. I visualized the villa I'm staying in now. I visualized the money in my bank account, and every one of those details is scarily similar to what I had in my imagination. So imagine you do this, right? Just imagine your current life, where you are right now. Then imagine where you want to be. Take 5 minutes just to visualize that. Pause this video if you have to. Visualize your dream life. Visualize where you want to be in 2 or 3 years. And then just write it all down. Every morning for 5 minutes, do that same thing. Just visualize your dream day. Read about your dream day. And you might be surprised that one day you wake up and it's your reality. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Brian, and I help game developers like you go from aspiring game developers to full-time successful game developers. Making games is hard. Making your first ever commercial game is extremely hard. But why would we let that stop us? Let me tell you the story about my first commercial game that I released about, what was it now? I think it's about 4 months now. Yeah, let me tell you the story about that game. I remember 1.5 years ago, I was making a pretty decent wage as a full-time game developer. I was making about, I think, $3,500 a month, roughly, on average, which is pretty good, it's enough to live on. But I had always been dreaming about creating my first commercial game that I would sell on Steam, and that never really seemed like a possibility until I met my business partner Tutti. After me and him worked together for a while, he actually offered to pay for all of my expenses whilst we were developing the game. So the dream finally felt like a reality. This is all cool and all, but in the day-to-day, there is so many stresses associated with this. We made a plan for the game, and I realized that there was a lot of stuff that I had known nothing about. Imagine you're me, right? Imagine you finally can do what you've been wanting to do for years, but there's all this fear that maybe I can't do it. Maybe I don't have the skills yet. At the time, there was a ton of doubt, and I think you will experience the same thing too when making your first commercial game. So I remember there was 3 particular things in my game that I knew nothing about going in. That was 1, mirror multiplayer, 2, integration with Steam, and 3, ragdolls. I had to make a fully fledged playable ragdoll that wouldn't just be, some ragdoll NPC. I had to make your own player, the core gameplay of the game, be excellent, and that had to be a ragdoll, and I knew nothing about this. So it goes without saying, there was a ton of doubt in my head, and you will most likely have those doubts too. There will definitely be something in your game that you just won't know how to start implementing. And that's okay, that's normal. You don't have to know everything about game development going in. So across the next few weeks and few months, I slowly decided to add all these features that I was nervous about. The first one I decided to add was ragdolls, and ragdolls actually were quite difficult. The first week, I had basically just managed to follow some basic tutorials, and the ragdoll kind of sucked, but you know, if you just give it a few weeks, like imagine just one feature that you're thinking of making in your game that you're gonna struggle on. You're gonna follow some sort of tutorial probably to get a base for it, right? And you might think, oh my god, this is shit, I have to start over and I don't know how to start this, I don't know what to do to make this good because this tutorial just isn't good enough and there's nothing else on the internet. But it's okay. Just follow that tutorial, let that be your guide, and then just start experimenting with it. Add things to the code, take things away from the code. That's exactly what I did. And I ended up with a pretty fun, although imperfect, ragdoll in my game. But it's perfectly possible to be part of a commercial game. So don't let those doubts stop you from implementing the things that you want to implement, even if they seem daunting at first. And then the same thing started happening. You know, with Steamworks, I also had the same doubts, and I actually even had bigger doubts because I had no idea how I would start, you know, connecting Steam together, and then how I would switch to Miro, which is like the networking solution with all the players playing in the... So Steam was like the, Steam just connected players together, and I had no idea how that would then translate to people connected to each other on Mirror in the actual game. So that was another big doubt, and I actually put off implementing that for about 2 weeks. Just fucking do it. Just jump into it. You never know. Most of the time, you're gonna find out that it's a hell of a lot easier than you thought it was gonna be. After all those kind of daunting features were added, the next few weeks and months for you will probably be just adding more and more content. It will probably be quite chill. It will just be you know, making your game wherever you want to make your game. It will be quite fun, but don't worry. The stress is gonna start again soon, just like it did for me. Because at some point, no matter how much you don't want to think about it, the launch will start coming up. Just had another moment. You know, I get these moments where I just fucking look at that and I think, what the fuck? How have I done this? How is my life this right now? How have I gotten to this point? Just like 5 months ago, I was in my mum's house. But anyway, the launch. You all know what comes before a game launch. Fucking testing. Testing might not even be something you're thinking about if you're just starting to develop your game. Well, let me give you another thing to dread. So, imagine you're me, right? Your game is about 6 weeks away from release. Your game is mostly done. There's still a few features you need to add, but it's okay. You know, you've not got that much more to do, and you think easily you're gonna make it to release. And your game's gonna be fine, you know, nothing's particularly wrong. No. Let go of that. Your game's fucked, man. Your game is fucked. So, my first actual playtest with real people was about 6 weeks before the release of my game. And we all, you know, get on and start playing the damn game. You know, that's the whole point of the thing, right? First few minutes go by, and, you know, there's a few minor things here and there. You think, oh, I can fix that in 2 seconds. But then, someone disconnects. That's okay, you know, I could just find that, you know, it's just one disconnection, it's not that big of a deal, right? But then someone crashes. Oh, that's 2 things. And then someone else has a problem that they don't particularly describe to you very well, and then they just end up leaving the call. So you have no idea what went wrong, but you know it's quite a big problem. So that's now going to be in the back of your head. And before you know it, the first playtest is finished, and you have this list of 20 things that are very wrong with your game. Okay, you think, I can do this. If I just start working 1 more hour per day and just start tackling these one by one, we can still make it easily. Because, you know, I only had all these, like, tiny features to add anyway, right? So it's gonna be fine. So you fix all of them. There might be one that sits on your head for weeks and you just don't know exactly what you're gonna do to fix it. But, you know, you fix most of them, so you're ready for the next playtest. You're hopeful because last time there was 8 people playing your game, right? There was multiple people playing. So it's gonna be okay, they would have found all the bugs. You log on, they log on, you start playing. After 30 minutes, you have the same fucking length list as you had the first time around. Fuck. Suddenly, your heart drops. You realize that if this keeps going on, you might have to delay your game. And you suddenly realize you have 20,000 wish lists. And you've also built a community around your game. All of those people are at your neck constantly. Hi, how's the game going? I'm really excited. I can't wait. Booked a day off work to play your game on the 20th of October. How wholesome is that? Fuck. I'm not going to finish my game on time. I'm going to have to disappoint all these 20,000 people. Shit. What am I going to do? So you decide to work and work and work. If you're anything like me, you just go into your problems and just fucking tackle them, because it's just too much pressure. If you're someone that crumbles under pressure, it's gonna be really difficult. So you need to be someone that just fucking takes it on the chin and you just go. You just do what needs to be done. Otherwise, it's gonna be very difficult for you. And by the way, this builds you so much as a person. So anyway, you know, the next few weeks is just the same sort of cycle. You develop your game, you're fixing all the bugs, you're working like 10 hours a day, but at that point, it's your norm. And you know that on whenever your game releases, in my case it was the 20th of October, it's gonna be okay, you can relax a bit. Working 10 to 12 hours a day no longer phases you. And slowly, as the days and weeks pass and it gets closer and closer to the release of your game, you get more nervous, but you also sort of get relieved, because the lists, whilst they're still stacking up and stacking up, each time you do a playtest, there might be one or two less bugs in that list that time. So you know you're heading in the right direction. Eventually, the last week is extremely difficult. You know, I think I was working 16-hour days before the release of my first game. All you can think about is your game and your game release, and you just really want it to go well, because this is like everything you've been working up to for the last, you know, might be 2 years for you. For me, it was 8 months, which is still a very significant amount of time if something goes wrong. So you put all your heart and your energy into this game. It gets to the night before launch day. I still had a massive list on the night before the launch day of my game. I still had a whole YouTube video to make, which, by the way, takes me an entire week to make, and I somehow did that in like a fifth of the time. And I also had a bunch of stuff on my list that I eventually got ticked off. And then I just decided, you know, it was midnight and my game was releasing at 3 p.m. the next day. So I decided to do some final testing. And imagine you're me, right? You've done all this work, all this culmination of hard work is finally coming to a close. And then someone brings something to your attention. Brian, we've never actually tested what happens when someone joins a game that's full. You know, it's a very specific thing. It's something you can very easily miss as a game developer, because when making your first commercial game, it's gonna have a ton of little things that you just forget and people have to remind you to check, right? So no problem, I thought. I'm pretty sure the code in there is gonna be fine. But then you test it and it goes wrong. No problem, I'll just fix that. So with my game, it would kick someone out every time someone would join a full game. So instead of just not letting that person join, it would let him join and then kick a random person out. It was quite hilarious, but not for me. I was stressing the fuck out. And it all came down to how Steam handled people joining. It would delay telling the player that someone joined for about 5 seconds. So if someone joined a server and made it full, and then someone joined within 5 seconds, it would kick people out. And that seems like a tiny problem, but we wanted streamers to play our game, and we wanted that to be a big part of it. So if a streamer starts making a game and then invites people to join that game, and then, you know, 20-30 people flood through, and then suddenly no one joins because everyone's been kicked out and it's 8 random people in a game, it was quite a big issue. And it doesn't help that I couldn't fix it, and it took me 3 hours. Imagine the stress that I felt during those 3 hours. But, you know, I stayed up till 4 a.m. that night. I got it fixed, no problem. Launch day. You're finally ready to launch your game. Everything's done. You're really excited and you think, oh, I'm gonna be so relieved when I finally launch this game and I can just go and live my life again. So you press the launch button. Yes, it's done. The relief you thought you were gonna feel doesn't come. Oh shit, what if I missed something? Oh, what if the reviews are bad and no one likes my game? What if the 20,000 people that play it, what if they all hate it? What if they all hate me? What if my career is ruined? All of that will go through your head. But then, you know, some hours pass, some time passes, and you notice the sales coming in, you notice the reviews, you know, 90% positive, that's good. And then at the end of the first 24 hours, you check your sales and it's $30,000. in 24 hours. If you just persevere, make your game good, market it properly, you can have that. That can be your reality. And then 2 months after that, you can move into a place like this. I'm in Thailand right now. I'm doing whatever I want, whenever I want. There's no boss telling me what to do anymore. And that whole experience that I told you about, it built me so much as a person. I'm so much better at every facet of life now. It might be something as silly as making a game, but the amount of trials and tribulations you have to go through really builds you up. But unfortunately, most people choose to skip all that because at the start it's difficult and they choose to stay in their job. And I get it. It can be extremely painful to work in a job. I had a 9-to-5 for about a year. I sound like such a moaning child when I say I've only worked a 9-to-5 for a year, but I was depressed that entire year. Some people live that life for 40 fucking years and then they die. I just didn't want that to be my reality. I remember I would wake up at 6 a.m. every morning. I would barely have enough time to get dressed and just drink my protein shake, and then I had to dart out the door to make it for my train. I was on that train for 2 hours. And then when I finally got into my job at 8 a.m, it was just the same shit every single day. I used to hate it, and I don't get how people cope with it. You know, I used to have to wait until my boss left. And I remember when I finally had enough and I just used to start leaving when I wanted, I got called in for a meeting and basically told that I wasn't working hard enough. Yeah, because I don't want to fucking make someone else rich. I want to work for myself. Why would you want to make someone else rich? I just don't get it. It never resonated with me. And sure, it's got some stability, but why would you want stability when you can have this amazing life if you just take some risks? Remember, I used to leave at 6 a.m, so I was basically at work for 13 hours. If I wanted to get home at 7 p.m. and not 8 p.m, I had to leave early, and I had to rush to the first train. Otherwise, the next one was half an hour later, and usually it would be during rush hour, so I would get delayed. And I would have been at work for 14 hours. And essentially what my boss was telling me is that I need to stay at work because I don't seem motivated enough if I don't stay long enough. I was still doing my 8 hours and it just really, really pissed me off. And it was my catalyst to say, fuck you, fuck all this. I'm gonna do what I want with my life. I don't care if I'm broke. I don't care. And sure, I had a safety net. I had my parents' house, but I still started making money and I still started paying my parents' rent. If you're in this situation and you're feeling as much pain as I felt, just go part-time on your job. If you have something like I did where you can move in with your parents, you could probably pay your parents a few $100s a month, and then working part-time, you'd have the 4 days a week you need to make something work. And the thing about 9-to-5s is not only is your life shit while you're in one, your future prospects are also shit. Because yeah, if you work hard for 2 or 3 years, leave later than your boss, and do a bunch of work that you weren't meant to do to get paid the salary that you get paid, yeah, maybe you'll make 10% more the next year because you'll get promoted. Fuck that. In my 2 years of business, every year, my salary has tripled. Tell me a 9-to-5 job where you can triple your fucking salary every year, because I don't know one, and if I did, I'd probably fucking go and work for it. But there isn't one. There isn't a job like that. 9-to-5s keep you stagnant. They keep you doing things for a boss that you don't care about. And even if you somewhat enjoy it, but still have that slight unfulfilled feeling, your life will get so much better if you start business. So if you resonate with this message, welcome to the channel, and if you've already been here for a while, let's keep fucking crushing it together. Let's go against everyone telling us that we need to stay in our job and just stay stagnant, and let's get better in all realms, not just business and money. Making a game is not enough anymore. Just take Notch. He made literally the most successful game of all time, and he's still depressed. What's so good about making a successful game if you're still living with your parents? What's so good about making a successful game if you're still fat and unhealthy? What's so good about having 100 grand in the bank if your mental health is fucked and you're still unhappy? Let's improve together in all of these aspects. You and I are different. They're not gonna succeed because they still scroll fucking TikTok, whilst we're researching productivity techniques, researching strategies to get as good as possible, down to the tiniest details. We're not like other people. We're trying to get better every day while everyone else stays the same. I'm glad that you watching have the same vision as me. that you also want to become better, and not just in business, not just in making your game successful, if game development is what you're into, but every realm. Remember, money is not enough anymore. Everything, holistically, we need to improve everything together. That is how you lead a good life. And sure, maybe once you achieve that big thing, you might not feel satisfied, and that's actually perfectly normal. We're not supposed to feel satisfied. We're supposed to still keep chasing and chasing. And once we achieve that goal, we move on to the next goal. That's what's fun about it. You never know what the next few years are going to be like for you. That's so exciting. Imagine someone that's still in a 9-to-5 doesn't have this. They know what they're going to be doing 4 or 5 years from now. I don't want that, and I don't think you do too. Keep working hard, keep improving, and I'll see you in the next video. If you want my one-to-one help on your journey, my coaching link is in the description. See you next video.